Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us here on the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. My name is Louisa and I help high achievers, entrepreneurs and coaches lift the lid on life and business so that they can live at their highest value. Each episode, we will bring you our favourite founders, CEOs and guest experts to share with you their insights and strategies to expand your wealth consciousness, your spiritual leadership and aligned business strategies. We know that living in alignment with your soul's mission is what fulfills you, and we are here to show you how to achieve this in an energetically aligned way. If you haven't already, be sure to claim your free abundance activation in the Akashic Records. Go to louisahavers.com/gift to unlock your abundance activation today. And if you'd like my support in having aligned success in life and business, then contact me at www.louisahavers.com and let's explore together if it's an aligned match. Get ready to live at your highest value and to expand into your next level of money as you elevate and receive more. You create more for others. Righty ho, let's dive into today's episode. Welcome, everybody. Welcome to this week's episode. I am so excited. I've reconnected with a dear friend, Ebonie Allard, and I'm so excited, Ebonie, to welcome you to the show. A huge welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited about this too. It's really nice when you haven't seen someone for a while and then you get to have a genuine catch up and call it work.
Yeah, exactly. It's awesome. It's awesome. So let me share a little bit about Ebonie. So for those of you listening and not able to get to the website and all the things, Ebonie Allard is an AUDHD, or DHD. I'll ask you about that in a second. Modern mystic, author, artist, and self-actualization facilitator. She is a nervous system accredited, award-winning master coach focused on using somatic awareness and human design to help curious, complex, creative, and often neurodiverse misfits drop the projections and perceptions of who they think they should be in order to survive and instead thrive by being empowered, embodied, and fully expressed. I love it. I love it. This is incredible. There's so much that's happened since we last catch up. So please, can you just kind of get me up to speed on the AUDHD, and then we'll dive into all the things.
Yes. The AUD is autistic and the DHD is ADHD. And you could be an autistic ADHDer. You can be, some people say that. Some people say that for me, and there are all different things out there. For me, I am autistic. I have ADHD. And so I put them together and I'm an AUDHDer.
I love it. So that is your term, not one that...
No, there is. It does exist. You can Google it. You can find a lot of people who are AUDHDers. But it is less common as an expression, I suppose, or as a search term in the UK than it is in the States. But I think that's growing as more and more people are diagnosed with both.
Yeah. Oh, awesome. Well, I heard it first with you. So let's dive into all the things. So we had a little quick catch up, but there's just so much that's happened since we last chatted, and it'd be lovely to just help our listeners know a little bit about your journey and how you got to doing what you're doing, all the incredible stuff that you're doing now.
I think the easiest way to explain it is that I have always felt like a misfit, like a square peg in a round hole, or a black sheep, or all of those expressions. I always felt like I was too innovative, too creative, too full of heart to just clock in and clock out of a job and or life. And now I'm like, oh yeah, autistic, ADHD, right? But that wasn't even remotely on my radar growing up. And it was, maybe I'm just too different. Maybe I'm broken. Maybe it's to do with being born early. Maybe it's to do with having radically ahead of their time parents who were vegan when I was 0, or into recycling, and all of these different things. My dad was one of the first 5 rhythms teachers. My mum was into Feldenkrais, worked with Osho. So I had all of this growing up and was highly embarrassed of all of it. So many people now are like, that's so cool. I'm like, yeah, wasn't in the 80s, wasn't in the 90s, right? And so all I wanted was to work in TV, was to have a proper job, to get paid to be creative, but to have status and money and some cool stuff to go with it. And so my first career was in the film industry. worked in the art department, worked my way up. Um, it is a great place to overwork codependents and neurodiverse people, and so that is what happened. And I got very, very overworked, very, very burnt out, and then created one of the first personal assistant, virtual assistant businesses. Again, totally ahead of its time. In 2008, 2009, I created My Girl Friday, and people were like, "You won't work in our building, but you'll work for us." Yes, yes. And they were like, "No, how can we trust you? Like, how will we know that you're doing well?" Anyway, so that was the next thing I did. And now it's laughable, but at the time, it was so obvious to me. Like, why would I come into work? I can work better in the quiet on my own. Let me just get
Mm.
on with some things. So did that. And I think really all of the personal things, the like, who am I? Why do I not fit in? All of the angst, all of the big questions kind of caught up with me. And so after having burnout, I then went through breakdown. And for me, the difference is burnout's when we've overextended our energy. Breakdown is when our insides and our outsides don't match, right? The more personal development we do, the more inquiry we do, the more we're kind of intercepting and figuring out what's going on in there. And then we can't live in our life anymore,
Mm.
and we don't know how to change it, and it feels so overwhelming. I think that's where the breakdown happens. And sometimes it's from that place of complete collapse, or like, let's just lock me up in a comfortable white padded room so that I can rest, is the only way forward. And other times that looks like your life exploding or relationship ending or something. But from that place, for me, I was like, well, what am I going to do? Where do I go from here? And I did go through every book I'd ever read, every podcast, every entrepreneur I'd ever worked for, all of the stuff I'd done with my dad, my parents, all of the incredible wellness and holistic entrepreneurs that I'd worked for over the years as an assistant, and kind of put together all the lies and all the truths, and came up with the 8 pillars of practice that make up the Misfit to Maven way, and wrote my book. And that was 10 years ago.
My God, I remember you publishing that book. That means we've known each other for more than 10 years.
I know, right?
It's our
Overnight success.
anniversary, Ebony.
Thanks. But that's the thing, people always go, "Overnight success." I'm like, "Yes, you've never heard of me, but I've been here for 10 years," right? Um, so then my like, that's what happened. I kind of promoted the book, promoted the course, started working as a coach, qualified as a coach, started, like, doing what you do, investing in business coaches, all of the things. And I'm gonna wrap that bit up, and I'm sure you'll ask me more questions about it. But over the last 10 years, I learned lots of things I didn't want to do, and lots of things that other people were doing that I thought I ought to do, or I should do, or I had to do to be successful. And then I kind of discovered human design, and that led me to a neurodivergence diagnosis and understanding my own operating system. I think that, in combination with also being trained as an MBIT coach, which is multiple brain integration technique. And I've done my master coach in MBIT twice. And the first time I did it, it was like, oh, nervous system, pelvic brain, like, whoa, this is amazing. Second time I did it, had the diagnosis. And that this time I was looking at the nervous system from a neurodivergence perspective. And that was like, oh, oh, it was just so different. And so everything's kind of integrated and landed in a way where it's such a cliche to say when you look back, you can join the dots. And very often, when you are marching forward at a great pace, going, "Where is success? I just want to get there," you're not really paying attention to
Mm.
how things sit in the grander scheme of your life. And then I think the pandemic, moving to another country, lots of relationship stuff happening, space being created in my life has really, and also getting older, there's something about hitting 40 for me where I was like, okay, pace shift. And moving to Spain, where I
Mm.
was like, work is not the central focus of this culture. I could get used to this. And so again, like, everything really shifted for me, and I moved into a space of, okay, how do I use everything that I've already got, already created, to create a life that genuinely feels as good on the inside as it perhaps looks on the outside, but allows me to be me and doesn't feel, or doesn't come from a place of prove. anymore, but is because I
Mm.
genuinely have nothing left to prove. Like, I proved the things. I made it to 40. I'm still alive, right? Like an adult.
I'm
And now I
here.
get to
Yes.
have fun. Yeah.
Gosh, so much within that. And so you mentioned about human design, and that is something that has come through, I think, since we last connected, I think. So
Yeah.
this is exciting. I'd love to know. So how does, I mean, I love human design, but you're an expert. So how does knowing your human design help people in business and in life? Because I think that is actually there's so many layers to that question, but I think that would be a really good place to start to kind of help people understand how it's impacted your life, but also how it can help them in their lives.
Yeah. Human design is the science of the aura or the science of differentiation. And essentially, it is your birth date, place, and time gives us a barcode, a set of numbers that let us know the exact moment that you turned from spirit, from energy into matter. And so your matter is coded with everything that you need to know about being you. And your human design lets us know how your energy is designed to interact with the world and with everybody else in it. And there are 5 types made up of 4 types and then 1 type that is a kind of blend. And their auras and their energy interacts with the world and with each other in a slightly different way. And you might have heard that referred to as strategy. And so as a generator type, it will be to respond. As a projector type, it will be, you will have heard, wait for the invitation, or and again, there's loads I could say about some of the language that isn't necessarily helpful, but there's a lot
Mhm.
in there. And then we have our authority. And these 2 pieces, strategy and authority, everyone always skims over them because they're the basics, but they are also the big bits because our head brains were not designed to make decisions. Our head brains are incredible at making meaning, understanding, and perceiving. And all they do all day long is whiz around trying to make things congruent for us because, being human is horribly traumatic. And they're like, no, no, that was this. No, no, that was this. And they do a great job, our head brains, but
Mm.
they are not made to be a compass. They make meaning after the fact, right? Like, or they rationalize after the fact. We are all designed to make decisions or have our own internal self authority from a particular part of our bodies. And that is to do with the energy and how it's designed. And they are linked to the chakras or the brains or whatever it is. And so for some of us, that will be our sacral. And
Mm.
are we lit up? Is it a yes? Does it feel exciting? Does it energize us? For others, it will be the spleens. We'll have this splenic little flurry, like a gut feeling, like a, oh yeah, that would be, and then it's gone. We get to really work with the subtlety of that. For others, it is an emotional authority. I'm an emotional authority.
Me
And
too.
so we need a little bit of time to ride the wave of it. And we can very easily get really excited about things or also be so like down or like in the low of it that we will do anything to get out of it or make decisions from a no. And actually, for us, we are designed to act when we have that high, when we've got that energy on decisions already made. On that low energy, we are designed to rest and to recharge. And in that neutral place, where we've ridden a wave, we get to say yes to the stuff that is like, oh yeah, that's still a yes. Pass
Mm.
through high and a low, still a yes. And for some things that will be 24 hours and others that will be a little longer, perhaps. Hmm.
That's incredible.
And so how does that impact your life? Well, it means that instead of getting peer pressured or um, FOMO'd into following ways that everybody else seems to be doing or that look really shiny, you will really get to know whether something is for you or not for you, rather than going, well, this coach or this mentor or this person told me to do it that way and it hasn't worked, where you're really putting yourself in a place of like, it's not my responsibility, it's not my fault, and really putting that other person on a pedestal and making them your authority, which is only ever going to lead to all sorts of codependency, narcissism, like all of these behavioral patterns that we see in the world
Mm.
are because people are outsourcing their own authority. And if they understood their own human design, if they came back to their bodies, if they led from their own inner authority, then we wouldn't have that. We would live in a world where we were working in synarchy, where we all valued ourselves and each other. So I think it's really, really important for us to understand our human design.
Hugely important. I love how you're describing that. I think that's so helpful. Because like you were saying, the piece around people can skim over the strategy piece, but actually it's everything. If you haven't fully, because there's nuances, like you were saying around the projectors. I've heard that as well around you've got to wait for the invitation, and the projectors I know going, what am I supposed to do? Just sit in my hands.
Right. Yeah,
Yeah,
no.
I'm running a business.
Be a light, like, it's actually, it's about being recognized. That invitation piece is being recognized as the person to go to. And the first person who gets to recognize themselves, or how awesome you are, is you. And so
Mm.
as a projector, when you recognize, oh, I'm good at this, like I am so successful at this. It is easy for me. It doesn't require energy because I'm not an energy being. It's just so easy for me to do this. Then you will let us know that, signal that to us, and then we will be like, I know exactly who I need for this because they do it easily. It's just who they are. And so there's all sorts of little ways, like it should never be disempowering. It should never be like, oh, someone said to me the other day, when I first heard I was a generator, I was really like, why am I a run-of-the-mill worker bee?
No.
Oh, I don't ever want anyone to feel that about themselves. Actually, when you work with your design, you will discover how fascinating you are, and you can't do anything other than fall in love with yourself.
Oh, I love that so much. Yeah, we want to get away from like, I want to be a projector, I want to be a reflector. Accept all of yourself.
Yeah.
So when you were thinking about the journey that you've been on, and you were talking about really being able to recognize that and loving yourself,
Mm.
what does it mean to be from that place of you talk about being to be full of yourself.
Yes, I do.
Tell us about that aspect of that nuance around what does it mean to be full of yourself? Because I love that description.
You know what? About 6, 7 years ago, I got to that point in my business where I wanted to scale, expand, have more people find me. And I decided that Facebook ads, that seemed to be the way that everyone was doing it. But I was a little bit scared of getting more visible. And probably a lot of people will relate. I was like, well, I'll get trolls. People will say nasty things, right? And we ran some ads, 2 different ad sets, completely different message, completely different videos. Both ended up with the response, "Oh my God, this woman is so full of herself," written on them. And in that moment, 2 things happened inside of me. One was like, who the fuck else am I supposed to be full of? Which is the
Sorry.
autism. Like, that is the autism, right? That when people talk about autistics are so literal, like that, I never really understood that because I'm not. I understand it's not literally raining cats and dogs, but
Yeah,
the literal, like, who else am I supposed to be full of? That is how that shows up, right?
I love that. I love that. Who else am I
Um,
supposed to be full of? Of course. Like, this is
but
the best compliment then that you could have received.
yes, and that perspective shift is what I do in the world, right? Like, what am I full of? 1,000 different perspectives. What am I full of? I am full of stories. Gate 56 is my son. I am full of stories. I am the wandering storyteller. And so and where I was told at school, Ebony Allard, all I can hear is your voice. Are you telling stories again? Yes, yes, I am. And now I get paid for it. And I love that. So for me, that really planted this little seed, which led to both my diagnosis, but also like this book I'm going to write, this course that comes with it, this real understanding of who I am. Now, in human design terms, I have a defined will center. I call it the will center. Some people call it the ego center. It's also the heart center. And really, the reason I call it the will center is I was a willful little girl. I knew what I wanted. I still do, but it was hidden under quite a few layers of conditioning because in the society in which we grow up, particularly for little girls who then become women, It's not really the done thing. It's not nice to be that willful. Like strong women are difficult or bossy or arrogant or all of these things. And so I shut down my will center. It's a really big part of my design. I have two
Mm,
channels. They both come. So one is from my will center to my throat, designed to talk about what I want, actually. And in so doing, I enliven other people, I excite other people, I energize other people, because as a manifesting generator, I'm here to show you how life gets to be a light, fluffy, fun adventure. So that's what I'm full of. I have my emotional centers defined, as is my sacral, and the channel in between them is all about intimacy. And there's two gates in that. There's 59, which I call the provocative, the purposeful provocateur, and then gate 6, which I call the led by lover. And together they create this channel of intimacy. So the two things that I'm full of are intimacy and resource. The other line is the money line.
mm.
So understanding what am I full of? Oh, okay. Well, now I don't have to be anything other than me. I get to be an expert in being myself. And if I just get to be an expert in being myself, and that magnetizes the right people to me, the right opportunities for me to respond to as a manifesting generator, well, then I'm in that situation which is kind of that green light, green light, green light situation, which suddenly
Mm.
feels very, very fun. And then when I hit plateaus or frustration, I get to determine, okay, is it that I'm out of alignment, or is this a plateau and a place actually to rest? And that will be my own personal experiment. So for me, being full of yourself is a compliment, because who else, and as a genuine question, if you're listening to this, who are you full of? Because you're going to be full of someone, and it might be your parents, and it might be school, and it might be the news, and it might be, there's so many different things and people and voices and energy that you're probably full of. I know that as an empowered, embodied, and fully expressed human, I would much prefer to be full of myself and to create space to be full of other people, but to also know how to let that go when it's no longer appropriate and I'm not being empathy or I'm not holding space anymore. I get to let that all go from me.
So important. So important. I loved what you were saying there around people can be so full of other people's projections. It's so true. Your mother's projections, your father's projections, what we picked up. Even going into the supermarket, overhearing things, and suddenly the little brain starts to make a whole, story about what that then means for you, etc.
Yeah,
What a gift to have been able to have taken that trolling on the Facebook ads to actually have such an exquisite definition for people to be able to really actually go, be full of yourself, really allow yourself to be all of you. And it can sound a bit cliche, that, but actually, because so many people don't really know who all of themselves are
sure.
because they're on the hamster wheel, they're doing the thing and haven't taken time to really reflect and contemplate, and in human design world to be able to experiment. This is must have had such a massive impact on your life and the way you live life, to be able to really embody your human design.
Yeah. In fact, I made a decision this morning that feels terrifying to me right now. But I know, because I know my design, that it's the right thing to do. And so I really want to also say, being embodied is not, it's not like, it's not all rainbows and unicorns. Right? And not to put you off either, right? Because then your trolls and the worst things that get to happen, that happen to you, get to be the greatest stories that you get to tell. We were talking before we started recording about some of the things that happened in my world in the last 4 years, and there is a choice about how I could have interpreted all of that information, what I could have done with it, how I could have run with it. But
Mm.
for me, a good day is a good day and a bad day is a good story. And that's just who I am. And you get to be you, and there's a real gift in that. And if you don't know who you are, and the thing I get most often from people when I'm talking to them, when they're in that not where they want to be place, when they're in their not self place, the words I hear most often are I'm stuck, I'm overwhelmed, I'm confused, it just all feels like too much, or I'm not living my potential, and I don't know how. And the answer is not outside of you, it's inside of you. And you get to create space in your life to listen and to look and to feel. And the other thing I see a lot of is people trying to think their feelings. And our feelings are
Mm,
meant to be felt, not thought. And so when the biggest objection that I often have to people slowing down and learning who they are is what if I don't like what I find?
mm,
I'm a bit scared.
mm,
And without going hugely into therapy land, did you like who you were as a little girl or a little boy? Probably, right? Okay. Did you like who you were when you were 4? Did you like who you were when you were 5? You can probably pinpoint when that line starts to get a bit uncomfortable or blurry. And I would say that's the point at which you started accepting the projections and perceptions and made up stories and started acting out and developed strategies for acceptance and validation. And you're now a grown up and you get to rediscover and remember the beautiful essence of who you are and show us who that is. And the only person's opinion that really matters about who that person is yours.
mm.
And
So,
it's taken me a really, really long time, but I can honestly say, and not every single day and not all day long, I can honestly say that I'm in a place where the only person's opinion of me that really matters to me is mine. And that includes, I get people saying, you're amazing, and really like pedestaling me. And
mm,
I'm like, that's cool. Okay. But also people being like, ah, Ebony, that's also cool, right? Like your opinion is your opinion and it's a reflection of what you see in me is telling you something for you, not for me.
mm. So true.
Mm.
It's I think we need to put that on for all the trolls out there as a little reminder. It's so true. It can be a tough pill for people to swallow, isn't it? Recognizing, hang on, where is this what I see in someone else, a reflection of myself and the work actually that I need to do on me, where it's kind of rubbing up the energy field and creating that
Mm.
cognitive dissonance.
And the one thing I will say on that is yes, 100% agree. And we also have this assumption most of the time that the work has to be hard and
Mm,
going to be intense and it's going to be like quite full on and scary and all of those things. And that's why I bring so much fun and story and playfulness into my work because healing particular and for me healing is when we look at this stuff and bring light and
mm.
love to it and remove the shame that is there by giving it attention. It doesn't have to be heavy, it gets to be playful and fun.
So important that because I think people can take themselves down, I call it energetic rabbit holes where they're going off on I've got to get this fixed. And actually, like you were saying, it doesn't have to be like a heavy thing. And from an energetic perspective, you can create more of it if you go down it too down the rabbit hole
For
too deep
sure. And
without that lightness.
a lot of the people that I work with and a lot of the people that come into my world, and I was definitely one of these people for a long time, actually found the darkness and the heaviness way easier. And the deepest shadow work for me was joy. The deepest shadow
Mm,
work for me and the hardest thing for me to embody was my own joy, lightness, happiness. I could have actually stood, and I have many times, stood in front of a room full of people and bawled my eyes out. No problem. Stand in front of a room full of people and like experience bliss or joy or happiness or tell a story about a time when I was like on fire. That was so hard for me. Like that was the deepest shadow work.
I'm so glad you brought that forward because it's one of the things that I talk about a lot with clients around allowing more prosperity in because It's almost like we'll allow more money in, but I can't have joy as well. So therefore, I will trade it and I'll make sure I work really hard so that I'm not having too much joy as well as having more money, if that makes sense. And we
Yeah.
find ourselves playing these sort of trade-off games, whether it's, and people can do it with love as well. But joy, it's like people don't necessarily expect that joy meter to be capped. And it can be a sneaky one where we're not allowing ourselves to actually how much joy you're going to allow into your life and to feel really comfortable with it. This is
It's so sneaky. And for me, who ever since I was a tiny child didn't understand trading time for money, was like, why would I have a job? If I can do something really fast and someone else does something really slow, but we get paid the same amount, I don't understand. Like, and I've been like that since I was a child, right? Like, I just don't understand it. But if I'm really honest, as an entrepreneur, for the longest time, I would not sell stuff that took none of my time. People must have my time, otherwise, what are they paying for? And it has taken me so long to be okay with, did the work once, get paid often? Like, I
Mm,
thought I wanted that, and I do want that, but the reality of really letting that in took some time for me.
it's huge. It's huge. I think musicians are very good at it. My brother's a composer, so he's used to that kind of different way in his psyche as you create the music and then you get royalties on it. And it's amazing, isn't it? All that programming. He's had that programming, so he expects it completely normal, etc. But then if you're coming at it from a different lens and you've had the programming in a different way, then it's like, what do you mean I can do that? I need to give some of my time for it to be of value, etc. Even though you gave your time
Yeah.
in the first place. So
Yeah.
much must have changed over the years. How has your definition of success changed over the years? And because this has been such a huge thing for you since your diagnosis.
Yeah. I Again, that links really nicely into time for me, really. I think at the beginning of this journey, money
Mm.
and status were, and again, like, I was a bit scared of saying, "Oh, I want money and I want status. I want to be recognized. I want people to see, like, be like, oh, she's the best at that." So I wanted it, but saying it out loud was terrifying. And I wanted to get paid to do things I love, but again, don't tell anyone that I just get to do stuff I love. Yeah, and that was really, really,
So
it was
let
a
me have
thing.
more joy.
Oh God, was that easy for you? Yes, I'm sorry.
Sorry, I got paid really well. I apologize.
Again, such a manifesting generator thing of like, it was really easy for me and I did it quickly. Please don't pay me too much. But yeah, for a long time, what I really wanted was money and adventure and status. And I think that's what success was. These days, the freedom to, and I really thought that it was money that would give me freedom, and only money that was going to give me freedom, rather than creating the freedom in my life and then letting the money come into those spaces. These days, being able to wake up when I want, having enough of a schedule that I can meet people and interact with others and, have some sort of sense of what day of the week it is and what month it is. Because I do need reminding of those things. As an ADHD, particularly, I have complete time blindness, and I think this is a manifesting generator thing. Sometimes time is really fast, and sometimes it's really slow. And so the freedom to be able to play with time, play with my days, uh,
Mhm.
be outside when I want to, and not be outside when I don't. Be allowed to hyperfocus and work for 3 days straight if that feels good and I'm enjoying it. I had my partner message me the other day. He was like, "Hey, haven't heard from you. You all right? Like, you're messaging me early." He was like, "It's 10:30 at night." I was like, "Really? What?" I had just sat down to do like 10 minutes work and it was about 6 hours later. And
Wow.
I don't know where the time went, right? Because
Mm.
I was just having a really nice time. But again, working with my true nature, being allowed and paid to be me and to hyper focus sometimes, and then just have days or weeks if I want where I get to pussycat mermaid and play on a beach and go swimming and not worry about time. That's, yeah, that is where success lies for me.
Mm. So, so good to be able to have our own definitions of success and not the ones that are projected onto us.
Mm.
No Lamborghinis, all that kind of stuff, or whatever it may be that's out there as that's the definition of success. Actually, how do we create it for ourselves? Oh, this is so good. So just to kind of bring this all to close, because I know we could chat for hours. Is what would you say are from your lens, what the three tips that entrepreneurs can take and implement in their businesses so that they can be full of themselves?
I think the first thing is to really understand your values. And often people do a value elicitation exercise of some description and they end up with some words and they're like, these are my values. I'm like, yeah, sure. Okay. How are you living them in your life? Demonstrate to me that where the time that you have is actually um, being used in these valued ways. If you're valuing family, if you're valuing free time, show me how you're spending your money. Show me how you're spending your energy. Is it on these things? So that first piece is really understanding your values and aligning your life to match them. The second one is to get really clear on what you are full of. And there is no right or wrong. Like, can you witness that? Like, at the moment, are you full of frustration? Are you full of overwhelm? Are you full of joy? Are you full of stories? Are you like, what are you full of? And to be accepting of whatever it is that you find and start to imagine what your life might be like if you expanded on that, if you got paid for that, if you were appreciated for that. And then the third thing I think is about your energy and how does your energy work? And I am kind of really bored of hearing about productivity. I think productivity is very boring and so old. So I'm like so bored of hearing about productivity. We weren't designed. We weren't born into this life. I didn't have this incredible miracle of our lives to be productive. Just not what we were born for. I think what we really want to look at is our energy effectivity rather than productivity. And I think what you'll find, at least my experiment has led me to discover, is that rest is productive and rest is regenerative and rest is where all my best ideas come, where all of these synapses fire into each other. I get this alternative perspective, which is what I am full of and known for. And I still have days where I'm like, I must do something with my day. What have I done? And instead, I ask myself, who have I been? Who have I been today? And am I proud or happy or satisfied with who I am being rather than what I am doing?
Wisdom drops there. Thank you so much, Ebony. This is huge. How can people come and find you, get into your world? I know you've got some incredible freebies and all the things. So tell us all the things, and we'll put all the links below the below the
Yeah,
show.
I think that I have given you a link so that if you do not have your human design chart, and even if you do and you want my take on it, you get a chart and a report for free from me. And then I also have a bunch of other freebies that are you can pick from because some people like journal prompts. And so there's some of them want a meditation. And so you get a guided embodiment journey, different things from you to choose from. If you want to come and hang out with me, I spend the most time on Instagram. And if you decide you want more of me in your ears, I have a podcast which is Adulting with Ebony. And that's weekly most of the time, except for when I'm over it and I've decided to have a pause.
You're resting. You're being effective with your energy.
Well, at the moment, because I've been podcasting for 7 years, when I decide I can't do this anymore, we re-release. And so we're on we've just done 4 of 6 re-releases, and it's been so incredible to hear the feedback on that, because people have come into my world and they've binged, or at least they think
Mm,
they've listened to all of them. I'm like, there's probably 250 episodes, so let me pull some out that I think you might want to hear right now. And so it's really nice. It feels like having this like wine cellar of
perfect.
things that people could listen to and pulling out a bottle for them. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. Dinner with Ebony. What wine are we having on the menu tonight? This is so awesome. Thank you so, so much for sharing all your wisdom and all your love with our listeners, and inviting everybody to hop over to Ebony's World, check her out on Instagram, download all the freebies, and we can take it all from there. Thank you, lovely. Thank you so
Thank
much.
you so, so much. Such a pleasure, such a joy to come and talk with you.
Awesome. Until next time, everybody, we will see you all very soon on the next show. Sending you all lots and lots of love. Thanks for listening to the Infinite Prosperity Podcast. And if you like what you've heard and want to know more, please go to louisahavers.com. We just appreciate you so much. So thank you for listening and hanging out with us. If there's anything that we can do for you, you can email us at louisa@louisahavers.com. Let my team know if you have any ideas for shows that you'd love to hear or topics you want me to talk about. Really looking forward to hearing from you. All right, that is it for this week, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us for today. Looking forward to connecting with you again. Until next time, namaste.